The Hanfstaengl Prank. In 1937, Hitler and Joseph Goebbels pulled a cruel prank on Harvard-educated Ernst Putzi Hanfstaengl, one of Hitler's early supporters, close friends and former foreign press chief. After Hanfstaengl criticized the fighting spirit of German soldiers in combat during the Spanish Civil War, Hitler gave him sealed orders for a supposed secret mission to work for Francisco Franco in Spain. He was told he would be parachuted into Republican Red territory, which would have meant certain death. During the flight, the crew gave fake updates to convince him they were nearing enemy lines, but the plane was actually just circling over Germany. Thinking he was about to be executed, Hanfstaengl had a complete meltdown. The plane eventually made an emergency landing at Leipzig airport, revealing the prank. Far from finding it funny, Hanfstaengl thought his life was in danger and fled to Switzerland, eventually defecting to the Allies and working for the United States during World War II under President Roosevelt. Horst Wessel was a 22-year-old taxi driver, amateur musician and university dropout, who became one of the Nazi Party's most famous martyrs. He joined the Sturmabteilung, the paramilitary wing of the Nazi Party, in 1928 and became a local street commander. In 1930, Wessel was relaxing in his subleased room when someone knocked on the door. Expecting another SA leader, he opened the door but was instantly shot in the face by two Communist Party members, friends of his landlady, who wanted him out of the room over unpaid rent and living with a prostitute. He lingered in the hospital for over a month and died from blood poisoning. Even though he was relatively unimportant inside the party, Joseph Goebbels heavily promoted him after his death. His funeral became a major Nazi event, attended by top party figures, and the lyrics he wrote for a marching song were turned into the Horst Wessel song, the Nazi Party anthem. After Hitler took power in 1933, it became one of Germany's official national anthems. Hitler's sweet tooth. Hitler had an extreme sweet tooth and constantly craved cakes, pastries, biscuits and chocolate. He could eat several cream cakes in one sitting, and his staff had to leave a special Führer cake by his bed every night, an apple cake with nuts and raisins that he ate after everyone else had gone to sleep. He consumed huge amounts of sugar as well, sometimes adding 5 spoonfuls to his tea, and even mixed sugar into wine earlier in his life. During stressful moments like planning the invasion of Norway, aides said he repeatedly left meetings to eat sweets in his study. Hitler claimed sugar helped calm his nerves. His cooks made custom desserts, like Hakenkreuz-decorated cakes, and he apparently ate up to a kilogram of chocolate pralines in a single day. Even in the Führerbunker, as the Soviets rumbled through the city, he was stuffing himself with cake. Marriage loans. In 1933, the Nazi government offered newly married couples interest-free loans of up to 1,000 Reichsmark, 1/5 of an average yearly salary. The money came as vouchers for household items like furniture and was originally only available if the wife stopped working. For every child a couple had, 25% of the loan was cancelled, so 4 children erased the debt. The program was meant to increase birth rates and promote the Nazi ideal family while also freeing jobs for men during unemployment. By 1937, Germany needed more workers, so the rule forcing women to stop working was dropped, though loans were still limited to couples of documented Aryan ancestry and genetic fitness. Animal protection laws. In 1933, Germany introduced the Reich Animal Protection Act, one of the world's strictest animal welfare laws at the time. It banned animal experiments without anesthesia, kosher ritual slaughter, force feeding, cutting dogs' ears and tails, tearing apart live frogs, and boiling live crustaceans. The laws also regulated how animals were treated in circuses and zoos, and banned using animals in films or public events if it caused pain. Hermann Göring, Reichsmaster of the Hunt, later imposed heavy hunting restrictions and banned commercial animal trapping. Göring claimed anyone who mistreated animals could be sent to a concentration camp. Hitler supported the laws and was known for his attachment to animals, especially his German Shepherd Blondie. At the same time, Nazi writer Will Vesper characterized cats as treacherous and antisocial and called them the Jews among animals because they hunted songbirds. But Göring kept 7 pet lions. In 1942, the regime also banned Jewish citizens from owning pets. Aryan baby contests. The Nazi regime promoted the idea of a perfect Aryan, idealizing Nordic traits like blonde hair, blue eyes, and light skin as symbols of racial uniqueness and purity. In 1935, the magazine Sonne ins Haus held a contest to find the perfect Aryan child. The winning child was 6-month-old Hesse Levinsohn, personally selected by propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels. But what nobody knew was that Hesse was actually the daughter of Latvian Jewish immigrants living in Berlin. Her photographer Hans Balin had secretly entered the photo as a joke to mock Nazi racial ideology. After Hesse's face was spread across magazines and postcards, her family feared exposure and arrest. They migrated to France in 1938 and later settled in New York City. Hitler was a film buff. He was obsessed with movies and held private film screenings almost every night after dinner, sometimes forcing aides like Albert Speer to sit through long viewing sessions. He especially enjoyed American films and was a fan of comedy acts like Laurel and Hardy, characters like Mickey Mouse, and actresses such as Greta Garbo. He regularly watched movies in his private cinema and reportedly loved Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Some accounts also claim he enjoyed King Kong, Lives of a Bengal Lancer, and movies starring Charlie Chaplin, though historians debate whether he actually watched them. Once the war began, he watched less often. Sleepy Adolf. Hitler was a notorious late riser who rarely got out of bed before 11 a.m., even during critical moments of the war. He usually stayed up until the early hours, watching films or talking with his inner circle. On D-Day, June 6, 1944, when the Allies landed in Normandy, Hitler was still asleep and slept through initial reports. His generals were afraid to wake him since he gave orders not to be woken for any reason. This delayed making critical decisions for several crucial hours. Hitler's nephew, William Patrick Hitler, was born in Liverpool to Hitler's half-brother and moved to Germany in the 1930s, hoping to benefit from his uncle's rise to power. But the relationship quickly turned bitter, and William reportedly threatened to expose embarrassing family stories unless he received a better position within the regime. As war approached, he returned to Britain and later traveled across the US, giving anti-Nazi lectures. After personally appealing to President Roosevelt, he was allowed to join the US Navy in 1944. He served in the Pacific as a medic, was wounded and received a Purple Heart. After the war, he distanced himself from his surname, changed it to Stuart Houston, and settled quietly in Long Island, New York, where he married and raised 4 children. Protected Jews. Despite Nazi racial laws, Hitler personally protected a small number of people with Jewish ancestry. One was Eduard Bloch, his Jewish family doctor who treated Hitler's mother before she died of cancer. After Germany annexed Austria, Hitler ordered that Bloch, whom he called a noble Jew, be protected, allowed to leave safely with his belongings, and marked as a protected Jew in his papers. Another exception was Emil Maurice, Hitler's early driver, bodyguard, participant in the beer hall putsch, and a founding member of the SS. When SS leader Heinrich Himmler discovered Maurice had a Jewish great-grandfather, he tried to remove him under SS racial rules, deeming him a security risk. Hitler ignored him and personally granted Maurice an exemption as an honorary Aryan. Nazi Christmas. The Nazis tried to reshape Christmas into a propaganda tool by removing its Jewish roots and turning it into a Germanic winter festival called Julfest or Jule. Traditional decorations were replaced with Nazi-themed versions featuring the Hakenkreuz and iron crosses, including wrapping paper and even Hakenkreuz-shaped cookie cutters. Christmas stars were discouraged because 6-pointed stars were linked to Judaism and 5-pointed stars to the Soviet Union. Instead, trees were topped with swastikas, iron crosses, or sun symbols. Christmas carols were rewritten to remove references to Jesus and replace them with themes about nature, light, and the Aryan homeland. They also tried replacing Saint Nicholas, who traditionally brings German children treats on December 6th, with the Norse god Odin. One of the strangest Nazi holiday items was the Julleuchter, promoted promoted by SS leader Heinrich Himmler. The candle holder was made by prisoners from Dachau concentration camp and given as a gift to SS members. Himmler said the heart on it represents home and the Hagal rune peace through victory. Near the end of the war, Nazi propaganda tried turning Christmas into a day to honor fallen German soldiers. Despite all these efforts, most Germans largely kept celebrating Christmas the traditional way. Unity Mitford. In the 1930s, Hitler developed a close, some say even romantic, relationship with Unity Mitford, a British aristocrat obsessed with Nazism. She moved to Germany, learned German, and pushed her way into Hitler's inner circle, staying close to him for about 5 years. Hitler became so attached to her that he offered her a choice of apartments in Munich, and she regularly stayed at the Berghof, discussing hopes for a German-British alliance. Mitford was openly anti-Semitic. The Brits described her as more Nazi than the Nazis. Ironically, she had been conceived in a Canadian town called Swastika. When Britain declared war on Germany in 1939, Mitford was devastated and shot herself in the head in Munich's English Garden because she couldn't handle the two countries she loved going to war. She survived with severe brain damage, and Hitler visited her in the hospital, paid her medical bills, and arranged her return to England. She never recovered and died in 1948 from complications related to the injury. Nazi gun laws. Contrary to popular belief, Nazi Germany loosened many gun laws for most German citizens. Under the 1938 weapons law, restrictions on buying rifles, shotguns and ammunition were completely lifted, and Nazi party members, government officials and hunters were exempt from many permit requirements. The stricter rules mainly applied to handguns, though handgun permits were extended from 1 to 3 years and the legal buying age was lowered from 20 to 18. At the same time, Jews were completely banned from owning any weapons, including firearms, ammo, knives and clubs. Jewish-owned companies were also denied permits to manufacture weapons or ammunition. Before Hitler's rise to power in 1933, the SA stormtroopers carried American-made Colt or Smith & Wesson handguns, which they got from the black market and viewed as top-tier weapons. Silkworm breeding. During World War II, Nazi Germany used silkworm breeding to help produce strong, fire-resistant silk for military parachutes. To reduce reliance on imports, the regime planted millions of mulberry trees along roads, railways, and schoolyards, since silkworms feed on their leaves. Teachers were trained in silk production, and schoolchildren were assigned to raise and care for the worms. The silk produced in the program was later used for German parachutes, including during Operation Mercury in 1941, the massive airborne invasion of Crete. The Degenerate Art Gallery. Before the Nazis took power, Germany was a major center for modern art movements like Dadaism and Bauhaus. But after Hitler rose to power, art had to fit a certain ideal. In 1937, the Nazis opened the Degenerate Art exhibition in Munich, a propaganda gallery meant to mock modern art and convince the public it was ugly, un-German and corrupt. More than 650 confiscated artworks were displayed in chaotic, badly lit rooms, with insulting graffiti, mocking labels, and quotes from Hitler and Goebbels. Entry was free, and the exhibit later toured Germany and Austria. At the same time, the Nazis opened a great German art exhibition nearby to showcase officially approved art. But the plan backfired. Crowds overwhelmingly preferred the banned art exhibit, attracting 5 times more visitors. Over 2 million went. After the gallery closed, many artworks were destroyed, seized, or sold abroad. The cocktail. Theodor Morell, Hitler's personal doctor, became infamous for pumping him full of drugs and strange medical mixtures. Nicknamed the Reich Injection Master, Morell treated Hitler's constant health problems with hundreds of injections, containing things like methamphetamine, morphine, caffeine, hormones, and even bacteria. Many were Morell's own mixtures. Hitler's daily drug regimen became massive, receiving dozens of injections per day. and historians believe Morell's treatments may have worsened his health. In 1944, another doctor, Erwin Giesing, became suspicious after Hitler developed jaundice. Giesing tested some anti-gas pills Morell gave Hitler every day and discovered they contained highly toxic substances like strychnine and belladonna. When the findings reached Hitler, he refused to believe Morell was harming him and instead fired all doctors who questioned the treatments. Armed Nazis. Nazi Germany heavily used Pervitin, an early methamphetamine sold to civilians and the military. German soldiers nicknamed it tank chocolate and pilot salt because it boosted energy, reduced hunger and sleep deprivation, and allowed troops to fight or march for days without rest. Millions of tablets were distributed during campaigns in Poland, France and the Soviet Union. Before restrictions were added in 1941, Pervitin was legally sold over the counter and advertised as a productivity booster for workers, students and homemakers. The stimulant later became linked to exhaustion, heart problems and circulation issues, leading officials to regulate it. Despite the warnings, the military kept distributing it because of its short-term battlefield benefits, especially during Operation Barbarossa. Pervitin remained widely available through prescriptions and the black market before eventually being banned in the 70s. De-extinction Projects. In the 1930s, German zoologist brothers Lutz and Heinz Heck tried to resurrect extinct animals like the ancient aurochs, wild cattle, and wild tarpons, wild horses, through selective breeding. The project was heavily supported by Nazi leaders such as Hermann Göring, who saw the animals as symbol of ancient Germanic strength and racial purity. The goal was to create aggressive, self-sufficient animals that could roam a fantasy Aryan wilderness in conquered eastern territories and be hunted by Nazi elites. The resulting animals, now called Heck cattle and Heck horses, were claimed to be recreations of the extinct species, but scientists don't consider them true revivals. As Allied forces advanced near the end of World War II, many roaming animals were killed, but some still exist today. Hitler's writing skills. While in prison after the failed beer hall putsch in 1924, Hitler didn't personally write most of his book Mein Kampf because he typed poorly, wrote slowly by hand, and struggled with spelling. Much of the book was dictated and transcribed by supporters, especially Rudolf Hess, who also heavily edited and reorganized the text to make it more readable. Hitler wanted to call his book My Long Struggle Against Lies, Stupidity and Cowardice, but his publisher shortened it to Mein Kampf.